Greetings and welcome to my channel. It's a lovely Saturday morning here in early April 2022. If you're a new viewer to my channel, today we're going to be doing a backyard garden tour of all of the things that I'm growing in containers in my raised bed and my backyard orchard here in the spring of 2022, obviously. If you're a returning viewer, lots of exciting things today. We're going to be doing updates on the Hawaiian pineapples, on big tomatoes that I've got going on, and on the avocado seed that I've been growing for a little over 2 years now. So this is going to be a really exciting one. I also want to start something else new this month. I have been wanting to do this for a long time. If you have prayer requests, please share them in the comments. I've been wanting to get to know my community a little bit better, and I think it's a good opportunity for believers to pray for one another, and also for folks in the Northeast Austin area, and just anywhere. If you're anywhere, share your prayer requests. I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. And you don't have to be religious to do that. Just share what's going on in your life. I think that'd be really cool. So with that, let's get started with our garden tour. I have been very excited to shoot this one. I've been working on my backyard for a while now, and my wife and I have been stuck at home a lot lately, and it really feels like our backyard is finally starting to feel more like a park, which is really what I was going for when I set up all this gardening stuff. I think that one of the coolest things about gardening is you get to entertain, and when people come over here, you can explain all the different things that are going on in your garden. My wife and I are expecting, and we recently had a baby shower, and so we had probably 40 or 50 people over at our place, and it was really cool. We got to obviously celebrate the birth of our daughter, but we also got to well, the birth hasn't happened yet. We got to celebrate anticipating our daughter, and we also got to show off all the cool things that we have going on in our backyard, which is always a lot of fun. So we're gonna go around, talk about all of this. I have a lot of really fun stuff going on. I planted some wildflowers. They're not totally in bloom yet, so I might wind up doing another April garden tour. But as usual, we're gonna start by talking about the stuff that's in my raised bed here in the spring of 2022. So we'll start over here. I did a whole bunch of seed starters a couple months ago, back in January, and they just haven't really panned out. A lot of them withered away and died. All we have left of that is the little basil and the little eggplant, which means I might just tear out the stuff out of this space and just do something totally different. I haven't exactly decided what that might be yet, but stay tuned. That might be something exciting. However, the seed starters that did work out really well are the cucumbers here, and they've turned out great. So there's our first little long, maybe like 8-inch long cucumber vine, and you can see those little yellow flowers on it. My hope is that the tendrils will wrap around this lattice here, and they'll kind of climb that lattice, and then I have a mirrored lattice on the right that's a little broken, and I need to fix it, but there's some cucumbers over there too. I was really going for symmetry with this. I think that the symmetry will make it look really, really good. So I have all sorts of little cucumbers there. I'm going to thin those out a little bit because a lot of these are a little close together, but that's okay. If you're wondering what all these are here, these are watermelon. So I planted some watermelon seeds here, and yes, I'm aware they're close to a lot of other stuff. I think I might thin some out and just leave some starting over there as a good opportunity to, start some watermelon. I've been told that they're not like invasive or anything, but I've been told that they will grow a lot and set out a lot of roots and kind of choke out some of my other plants. So I want to be careful with that. Moving on, these are some of the tomatoes that I started from the seed starter. And they're really tiny and haven't done anything. So some people commented that with my seed starter, my grow light wasn't strong enough. And so my tomatoes got leggy. And I mean, they must have been absolutely right, because these are still like in their infancy. I'm hoping that these tomatoes will grow more of the summer and stay alive, and then maybe in the fall put out a crop. But for the time being, I'm really glad that I bought these mammoth tomato plants. They're doing really well, and they've grown so much. I took a picture of them when we had a storm about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you could barely see the first little tomatoes forming on them. And now, I mean, if you get up close, this one's doing awesome. It's got, maybe a dozen tomatoes on it, and they're big too. They're looking really good. And this one, to quote DJ Khaled, is suffering from success so badly that you can see it's got like snapped branches because it has probably like, 15 really large tomatoes on it here. Like this is right here, probably like 3 pounds. It's got a whole bunch in the back there too. And I probably need to just harvest this guy, even if these are green. and let them ripen up in the kitchen, because this is so abundantly produced that it's killing itself. But we'll come back on that one and see what's going on later. And then in the back, I have all these string beans. They're just getting started, but they're coming up. I opened up this tomato cage behind them, which I'm hoping they're gonna get to climb on. So they're looking good there. And moving on, this is the strawberry plant that I've gotten from Green and Growing. So this strawberry plant has done really well. It's put out probably a dozen strawberries over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm really liking the way it's turned out. And I know the strawberries look inviting, but you're really not supposed to eat these right straight out of the garden. I wash mine with salt water to get any type of worms or bugs that might have bored into the strawberries out, because I just don't like eating bugs. But oh, I realized over here, this tomato, this one's ripening up a little bit. We can get a good angle there out of the shade. Yeah, starting to get a little redness there. That's cool. Once again, I may do another garden tour in late April, because I have a feeling there'll be more wildflowers then. There might be more cool stuff too. So like, for example, we got our first cucumber here under this leaf. My GoPro does not do zoom well, but that should show up on the 4K. And that's gonna be exciting. This one is doing exactly what I want, putting those tendrils around the wood here and climbing. And so moving on, we got blackberries and peppers. So these blackberries are really young. They aren't really doing anything. I tried to make my habaneros survive over the winter, but they just haven't. So in their place, I've got some poblanos and ghost peppers, and I'll probably get some more habaneros to add to this raised bed. I think this raised bed is really awesome. The star of this bed is obviously the cucumber and the tomatoes. The strawberries, I think, are all really great right now, and I'm excited to see how they continue to turn out. And then of course, I have all these lovely plants in containers. These are not my plants in containers. These belong to my roommate. And so she's planted some aloe that's dying, some elysium, a bunch of petunias, an assortment of wildflowers, herbs, a couple succulents. There's some more elysium and petunias. We've got a marigold, a geranium, and just all sorts of really colorful, lovely plants that do a great job of attracting bees and all sorts of other pollinators to my garden, which is really awesome because that makes my garden a lot more productive. So I hope this is inspiring. I hope that if you have any questions about what these wildflowers are, like their specific benefits, you can ask me in the comments. I may not know the answer, but I'd like to have a conversation with you about it. And if you have any other questions on how I put all this together, the raised bed, I made a video on building it last fall in November. And it cost me $1,000 because the way I went about it, I didn't use soil from a soil yard or rocks from a rock quarry. But that's about 2 cubic yards of granite down there, if memory serves, and 4.7 cubic yards of soil in the bed that I bought individually bagged at Home Depot. So that's why it round up cost me $1,000, but you could probably do it for $600 if you bought soil from a soil yard and got it dumped out in your yard. The wood was only like 140, 160 maybe. So this has turned out really well, and I love showing off some of these plants that are in containers. I want to also talk about my fruit plants that are in containers. So I've got an avocado and a couple of pineapple plants here. We'll start talking about the avocado first. This is an avocado plant that I grew from a seed, and it is doing pretty well, honestly. I started this avocado plant in the fall of 2020, and you can see it's got some new shoots coming out there. And you used to be able to see the avocado seed that I grew this from down at the base, but it's kind of just withered away at this point. And the base is starting to grow some bark on it. And so this plant at this point is about 1 year and 8 months old. It's probably about 3-4 feet high, depending on how you're measuring from the container that it's in. And it's in a, I can't remember how big this container is. I think it's like a 35-gallon container. That cannot be right. I'm just making stuff up. It's like, this container is about 16 inches tall and 15 inches around. It's like a circular container, so it served me well. But yeah, there's absolutely, because those are 5-gallon buckets, so you know, it might be like an 8-gallon container, I don't know. Excuse the wind. I know it's been really, really difficult to film this spring because of all the wind. So in fact, I'm refilming this entire garden tour today because the last one I filmed was a little windy. So however much wind is in this video, bear with me, it's less than there was before. So these pineapples are really cool. These are about a year old. These are Hawaiian pineapples. My wife and I got married right at the beginning of the stay-at-home orders. And so we did an anniversary honeymoon trip in the spring of 2021. And we brought back some pineapples with us from Maui. And we went to this Maui pineapple plantation, the Maui Gold pineapple plantation. It was really cool. And these pineapples are starting to kind of darken up. They look a little brown, but I think that's okay because I remember when we went to the plantation, there was a lot of brown looking pineapples there too. If you're wondering why that one's so much smaller, it spent a lot of the time in the shade at one of my friend's house, and we moved it back over here because just wanted to get some full sunlight. If you take a look at the other two, which are over here, you'll see they're about the same size. And we've got some parsley growing in the base of these pineapples here. But these pineapples are really cool to grow. I want to make a complete growing guide for pineapple. And of course, that will mean that I need to grow to fruit. Otherwise, it's not a complete guide. So stay tuned. I am planning on working on that shortly. But that'll be, of course, probably about 4 to 6 months out. These pineapples, like I said, they're really cool. I probably should have put them in a nicer container, but part of my growing guide is doing it cheap. So 5-gallon paint buckets that have never been used with paint is what I'm using. And then of course we have this other avocado plant over here. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. You can see here, part of the trunk has shriveled up there, and it's decided that it wants to grow on a new stem now. It dropped all its leaves, and it's probably diseased. It's disappointing, and even if we never fruit with either of these avocado saplings, that's okay. I think that a big part of the hobby of gardening is slaving over plants for years and then just watching them die. So, you know, yeah, but we're gonna do our best to try to keep these alive. With that, let's talk about my backyard peach orchard and just all the fruit trees I've got. I've got 8 peach trees, 2 fig trees, and some more peach trees over there in my backyard. And they're lovely, and I love these fruit trees. And I put a little bougainvillea plant there that's still really young, maybe like a month ago, to attract some pollinators to my backyard. And these peach trees are really, really young. So this peach tree actually does have 1 peach on it there that I see. But these peach trees in general aren't really going to put a lot of fruit this spring, which is totally fine because it's their first spring in my backyard. And that we had a really late freeze this year in early March. The average latest freeze for Austin is February 15th, I think, and we had one on like March 10th. So a lot of these dropped all their fruit, dropped all their flowers, which is where the fruit grows from the flower. And so instead, this is still doing something really cool. All of this new growth here, this is what I call green wood. The way that these peach trees work, they will grow this green wood, and then over the course of the next season, it'll harden up and kind of turn red into this red wood, and the stuff that's about the thickness of a pencil, like this, is what your fruit grows on. And it'll keep thickening up until it turns into like a larger branch. But what that means is these peach trees have a lot of resource energy this spring, a lot of nutrients, and a lot of, I'm not a scientist, whatever the chlorophyll does, ATP, I don't know. They have a lot of energy to put out new shoots, put out new growth, and set the roots down in my backyard of the dense clay soil of my backyard. So if you're curious as to how I set up all these fruit trees, I've got a video I made maybe, I'm trying to guess, a month ago, 2 months ago. It's called Backyard Orchard, and I'm just explaining how I dug the plots out for these peach trees and cut the soil that they're planted in with some of the native soil from my backyard. And they've all been growing, you know, like a couple inches. Oh yeah, there's another little piece of fruit. But stay tuned, this isn't gonna be like a giant fruit harvest. You're gonna have to subscribe and stay subscribed for over a year if you wanna see all the fruit. You're gonna have to wait for next spring. But over here we've got a little not an avocado tree, this is a fig tree. This is a Caduta fig tree, and it's just come to life. I had a fig tree back at the old house, and it's pretty cool, but there's not too much interesting stuff to see here. Just a little fig tree. Got another fig tree over here called this is an evergreen fig tree. I can't remember the exact name, but it's just kind of a stick. And I planted a couple bluebonnets around it. That's what those little wildflower things are. And kind of as I mentioned, I might do another garden tour later in the month because I've scattered a whole bunch of wildflowers all over my yard. I recently did a video where I walked through a wildflower meadow and was showing a really thick meadow of bluebonnets in my house. These are like one of the 2 only bluebonnet plants that are blooming in my yard right now. I've also, of course, got some scattered little bluebonnets there. And yeah, I think that late April, they might be looking really good. I don't know if that sound of that propeller plane is going to show up on film. I'm not going to edit that out. It's usually pretty quiet. Somehow every little tiny gust of wind and smack of my lips extremely loud when I'm editing. But planes flying overhead, making a ton of noise, you can barely hear them. I don't know. I'm just leaving that in. We'll see how it turns out. Anyway, this, I've neglected to mention, those 4 peach trees that we just looked at, those are 3 Royal Zest trees and a Rio Grande tree in the corner. This one is a La Feliciana peach tree, and it was a very late bloomer, so it might actually put out some fruit. I'm not sure what is all fertilized at this point, pollinated, but you can see there's 4 pollinated flowers, and the flowers are putting out those little green wisps. Those will turn into fruit if the tree decides that it has the resources to actually grow these to fruition. But if the tree doesn't, it's smart enough to drop flowers that are pollinated, that it doesn't have the energy expenditure to continue growing. So might do a little bit of pruning on all of these trees, really, especially over the summer, just so that they can take some time to really set down their roots. And then in the corner, we got a little century plant. Somebody gave that century plant to my wife. Somebody was getting rid of it, and so they just decided, hey, century plant. And I'm usually going for symmetry in my yard, but I just thought this was kind of fun, so we just stuck it in the ground. I planted some sunflowers over here next to it. There's also some sunflowers on the opposite side of the yard, so maybe in May we'll get some symmetry back. Finally, we've got these big peach trees. They're real tall. I want these to fan out more. So once again, I'm probably going to do some pruning, but that peach tree is probably 12 feet tall. And then this one next to it, maybe like 9 and 11, I don't know. Those both came from Green and Growing in Pflugerville. Green and Growing is a really cool local nursery and north of Austin, I guess. It's in Pflugerville. And they just have some amazing prices. I think I paid $42 a piece for those huge peach trees. And this last one is from Costco. This peach tree these 3 are all Tex Prince peach trees. And Costco's just got deals, y'all. I'm sorry. Like, people hate me for it, for not like being like local nursery all the time. Like, always go to a local nursery. Like, if you don't support local, I hate you. But like, dude, guys, this was $20 at Costco. Things like 8 feet tall. It's healthy. Like, come on, y'all. Costco sometimes got deals. Anyway, so that is my backyard orchard. These are the lovely fruit trees that I'm growing, and now I'm gonna walk over to my front yard and take a look at some of the citrus that I'm growing and my crepe myrtle trees. So here we are in my front yard. We've got this little flower bed I haven't done a whole lot with, and a couple of these citrus trees here. Please excuse the wind. It's picking up a little bit. I'm trying to get this done before it's so windy you won't be able to hear me. But this here is a Poncan mandarin tree, and I planted it about a month or 2 ago. You can see it's got some new growth on it, so it's pretty cool, but hasn't done a whole lot yet. And this lemon tree over here, this is a Lisbon lemon tree, and it's kind of in a wind tunnel, so it's got a lot of leaves that got stripped off recently, but they are regrowing. And then if we can get out of the wind on the side of my house over here. So the side of my house looks really odd. There's like a lot of empty space here. It's kind of a strange space. So I planted these 3 crepe myrtle trees. These are red fuchsia crepe myrtle trees. And they're putting out some leaves. So it's really exciting. Crepe myrtles, I think will just add a lot of color to this side of the yard. I've also planted a whole bunch of bluebonnets over here. You can see like one of them has come up at this point of the season. But these crepe myrtle trees are definitely alive. I wasn't really worried that they weren't alive, but they bloom in May to late May. So not going to be super exciting for a while. This one here, it's a bit of a late bloomer, but you can see it's got all sorts of blooms there. So this is really very exciting. I have planted, as I mentioned, sunflowers, bluebonnets, zinnias, all sorts of different wildflowers in my front yard. So the May garden tour is going to be really cool. Again, might do a late April garden tour, not sure yet, but I have all sorts of really fun stuff coming this spring. I have made arrangements with Central Texas Gardener to do a collab, and she's going to feature me in a couple of weeks on her public access TV show and YouTube channel. If you don't know who Central Texas Gardener is, I will maybe link it in the postcards or put something in the description. She's been doing the show for a long time on PBS Austin, and so she does a great job with it. Her name's Linda, so check out her channel. She's really cool. But yeah, stay tuned. Lots of fun things coming this spring, and I'm very excited to share that with you all. Once again, if you have any prayer requests, leave those in the comments, and thank you again for watching Austin, Texas Gardening.